Luke chapter 10. I'm going to read verse 25 through verse 37 of Luke chapter 10. Luke chapter 10, 25 through 37. Now, probably most of you have a little heading there. Some of you do, maybe. Maybe some of you don't. It says the parable of the Good Samaritan, and that's what we're going to read. And behold, a certain lawyer stood up and tempted him, meaning Jesus, saying, Master, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? And he said unto him, What is written in the law? How readest thou? And he answered, said, Well, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy strength, and with all thy mind, and thy neighbor as thyself. And he said unto him, Thou hast answered right. This do, thou shalt live. But he, willing to justify himself, said unto Jesus, And who is my neighbor? And Jesus answering said, A certain man went down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and fell among thieves, which stripped him of his raiment, and wounded him, and departed, leaving him half dead. And by chance, that thing took off, didn't it? Well, you hit the wrong button, and away it goes. All right. By chance, there came down a certain priest that way, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. And likewise a Levite. And when he was at the place, came, looked on him, passed by on the other side. But a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion on him. And he went to him and bound up his wounds, pouring in oil and wine, and set him on his own beast, and brought him to an inn, and took care of him. And on the morrow, when he departed, he took out 2 pence, and gave them to the host, and said unto him, Take care of him, and whatsoever thou spendest more, when I come again, I will repay thee. Which now of these 3, thinkest thou, was neighbor unto him that fell among the thieves? And he said, Well, he that showed mercy on him. Then said Jesus unto him, Go, and do thou likewise. Now, Lord, we again ask you to minister to our hearts, because it's very easy for us to be just like this priest and this Levite. And so difficult for us in many respects, because there's a cost to being like the Good Samaritan. But I trust that you'll help us to be mindful that you're telling us this because you are encouraging this kind of activity in our Christian lives. And so I trust that you'll help us to be able to see this for what it is and make application to our hearts, so that we can be more responsible with the opportunities that come our way, even though we might not necessarily relish the opportunities. So we ask that you'd just speak to our hearts tonight, and we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, you know, passages are when you read passages like this, I read a passage like this, and I think, oh my goodness, this is a hard one to preach on, because, you know, believe me, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, because I got 4 fingers pointing right back this way. And, but yet, this is a very important part for us. If we're going to develop devoted disciples, you're going to have opportunities just like this Samaritan did, and it's not going to be convenient. It's going to be something that's going to take time when you think you should be doing something else. It's going to be something that's going to cost you when you think is it really worth it? And all of these things that are really temptations because of the fact that, real ministry isn't out there on the stage with all the lights and all the glow and the glory. The real ministry is in the trenches, in the places where things aren't quite so comfortable and quite so nice. And it's going to be at your workplace. It's going to be in your family when, there are needs. Yeah. And it's going to be in places where perhaps you are less inclined to stand up and do what would be the right thing to do. It's going to take courage. It's going to take some decision making on your part. It's going to be spiritual decisions. Believe me, your flesh is not going to want to do the things that your spirit will call upon you to do if you really wanted to be a disciple maker. And so I say that so that we be apprised of the fact that there's a cost to discipleship, okay? I think we all understand that, but we're saying these kind of things because of the fact we need to reckon with it, all right? That means we need to make full consideration of what we're talking about. Like I said, we don't want to just get up here and, say words. We really want there to be a difference in our lives that takes our life and puts us on a different trajectory when it comes to helping people. And so that's what this is about. So sometimes the greatest difference between life saved and a life ignored is not strength, skill, or even opportunity. It's the condition of the heart. And I'm talking about your heart, my heart. Sometimes it's we see people that, my grandson Micah is trained to be an EMT, and, they're going to rush upon a scene where people are having some, real health struggles and things like that, and they're going to be there to try to salvage a person's life. But truth be known, as skillful as these people have to be when they arrive on a scene in the face of an emergency or a trauma, we're going to have emergencies too. We're going to have traumas too. And what we need is not necessarily the skills of an EMT. What we need is to have the willingness in our heart to enter into situations that ordinarily we wouldn't want to take the time to do. Again, there'll be a cost. And so it's in the familiar story here of the Good Samaritan, Jesus paints a vivid contrast between people who see the need and walk on, and the one who feels the need and steps in. And we have to sit there and say, Lord, which one am I prone to be? Am I the one to see the need and step in, or do I tend to want to walk on because I've got so much to do? Apathy passes by with clean hands and undisturbed schedule. Compassion kneels down in the dust, willing to be interrupted. This parable doesn't just describe an ancient road, it mirrors the crossroads that we face every day. Will we choose the ease of indifference or the costly, life-changing path of compassion? So there's a question for us to consider. The ease of indifference, which is really easy to be indifferent, doesn't bother you, let the next guy take care of it, right? Or will we, the life-changing cost of compassion? And it will cost us. I think it's fair that we should take and put definitions on these words because they help us to kind of make a little bit clearer understanding when we talk about apathy and compassion. Okay? Apathy, here's the definition for apathy, and I'm sure you can go a lot of different places and get a lot of different definitions, but I think this definition gives us a pretty good idea of what apathy is all about. Apathy is a lack of interest, enthusiasm, emotion, or concern toward things that usually matter or require attention. Okay, think about that definition, okay? A lack of interest, enthusiasm. By the way, the word enthusiasm is an interesting word. It comes from the word in theos. Enthusiasm really is an attitude that you find in God, in Christ. So it's not just excited, jumping up and down type of happy-go-lucky type thing. It's the attitude of being in Christ and how Christ gives us the proper attitude toward the things that are right to do. Emotion, there is emotion involved. There's emotion. You enter into people's lives, into people's problems, there's going to be emotions. You're going to enter into the emotions. You might not like that. You might not like the emotional side of these things, but it's there. Concern toward things that usually matter or require attention. So a person experiencing apathy often feels indifferent. He feels unmotivated or disconnected from activities, from responsibilities, and from the people round about him. And, You know, it's real easy for this kind of thing. We're going to make some specific applications to even our homes because it's one of the places that shows up on a regular basis is in your home. But it's real easy for us to come and be home and be disconnected. It's really easy for us to come to church here and be disconnected. You say, well, I came to church. Yeah, but were you connected? You know, were you really involved? Were you really coming for a purpose to, to really be a blessing to somebody? We sing the song, Make Me a Blessing. Did you really come to be a blessing, or did you come just to be blessed? You know, do we tend to just ignore the things around us, or do we really want to be a part of the solution to things? Let's look at the word of compassion, because again, this is another very important word here. Compassion. Compassion is the deep awareness of another person's suffering combined with a genuine desire to help relieve it. So compassion is not, okay, we sang this song, okay, love as I love, give as I gave. These are the people that I came to save. Jesus didn't come down here just to feel our woes. Jesus came to make a difference in humanity, and he did. We're going to talk about some of the things that he did in the course of his life and ministry. He didn't just sit there and look at the problem. He stepped in where it was really messy and ugly. He stepped in and he made a difference. And that's precisely what it's going to cost us. It's not just feeling, okay? It's more than that. It's more than sympathy, which is basically a feeling for someone. You know, I sympathize with you. I feel your hurt, but then I can just walk away and, not get involved in your situation. Compassion includes the motivation to take action that helps erase, or at least helps alleviate, or at least helps to soften, I guess you can say, the pain or the difficulty. You know, when you go through a difficulty and you got somebody there with you, it's amazing how somebody else bearing the burden, really helps you. The Bible says, bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. When you feel alone, that makes your burden so much heavier. But when you know somebody's there with you to help you, to be by your side and to help you to take care of that need, it just gives you more strength. Two are better than one. A threefold cord is not quickly broken. And it's important for us to realize how much we really can make a difference in people's lives. Jude chapter 1 verse 22 says, and some have compassion, making a difference. Some have compassion. It'd be nice if all had compassion. I would have to say that's not my case all the time. I mean, I tend to be just in the same category that I'm talking about right here. It's so easy for us to want to do our will, our schedule, complete our agenda, and not pay attention to the things that need to be attended to, that will take us and ruin our schedule, change the things that we've got planned. From this particular passage here, as we read this passage, we see what's taking place here. I want to make some observations that contrast apathy and compassion, okay? Because we can see that these two traits, one's a virtue, one's a vice, okay? Obviously, compassion is the virtue, and apathy is the vice. And so as we look at the virtue and the vice, we want to see how each one plays out, or how it can play out. And so we want to do a little contrasting here. And so let's just take the very first here. Apathy sees the problem. Compassion feels the problem. Now, I'm not trying to get touchy-feeling here, you know what I mean, where you're just, it's all emotional thing. No. I'm talking about you feel it to the point that you enter into it. Look, the priest saw him. The Levite saw him. It specifically says in the text, he saw him, it looked on him, and he walked away on the other side. So it's not like we don't see. Sometimes we turn our heads because we don't want to see. We know that if we focus on the need, we'll feel this compulsion to do something about it. So the easy thing for us is just not to look at it. Stir up a conversation over here with somebody to take our mind off of the problem over here. And we're all like that, aren't we? We're all like that because we don't want to get into the middle of the situation. We're just assume we see it, but we don't necessarily want to take any action right there. So the priests and Levites saw the injured man, but they kept their distance. And that's what we do, is we keep our distance. We can see it, don't get too close, because the closer you get, the more inclined you're going to be to have to do something about it. The Spirit of God's going to speak to your heart about stuff like that. So don't get too close, because if you get too close, you'll be inclined to have to do something, change your schedule, things are going to be different. The Samaritan not only saw him, but he was moved on the inside. Something stirred his heart. And that's what you're going to find. That's what compassion does. And by the way, compassion comes from the Spirit of God. The Spirit of God will put compassion in your heart for the needs and burdens and hurts of other people. Okay? Your old carnal flesh will try to divert, get away from those things, because you know it's going to create a situation for you that you don't necessarily want to enter into. And so that's how our flesh reacts, I guess that's a better word. Number 2, apathy asks, what will it cost me? That's what apathy says, okay? All right, if I do this, it's going to cost me something, okay? So the first thing we look at is, if we're apathetic about a situation, is what is this going to cost me? How much am I going to have to pay? It might be how much do you have to pay in time. It might be how much you have to pay in your own personal resources. But every time you enter into somebody's problem, there's a cost to pay. You've got to shell something out. It might be time, it might be resources, it's something, but you're going to have something that you're going to have to give up if you're going to enter into another person's problem. We see this in this Good Samaritan, I should say, even in the person who's laying there wounded. All right, the guy's he's beat up, you know, he's bloody and he's left for dead. So what are we going to do? Well, if I stay here, you know, I've got to take care of this guy, and I've got to do more than just go and pray for him. I've got to go and I've got to get more involved. And so apathy says, it's going to cost me too much. I don't think I want to go there because the cost is too high. Compassion asks, what can I give? You know, we're not necessarily the salvation or the solution to everybody's problem. You're not. You're not the complete solution to everybody's problem. But you can do what you're going to do. You can do something, you know. You can't do everything, but you can do something. And I think we're so content these days to just let somebody else do something and let somebody else take the responsibility, you know. Instead of looking for an opportunity, we look for a way to get out of the situation rather than a way to actually take responsibility for the situation. So compassion is more inclined to say, what can I give? How can I help? What do you want me to do? Tell me what I need to do. Well, just jumps in there, takes his own initiative, and does what he knows or thinks he needs to do. You know, this is important. We see this in the story of the Good Samaritan. Number 3, apathy avoids getting involved. Apathy doesn't want to get involved. So we avoid getting involved. The best way to avoid getting involved is just to keep your distance. Don't look. Keep on walking. You've got stuff to do. Keep on going. That's what apathy is prone to do. You see a problem and you kind of close your eyes. You don't want to take care of the situation. You know there's a cost. You don't want to pay the cost. So apathy avoids getting involved, but compassion moves toward the hurting. You see, this is what the Good Samaritan did here. It says here, it said, but a certain Samaritan, as he journeyed, came where he was. And when he saw him, he had compassion on him, and he went to him. You see what happened? He went to him. All the others passed by on the other side. He saw him, he went to him. And therein is the difference. He went to him, and it says here, he bound up his wounds, pouring in oil and wine, set him on his own beast, and brought him to an inn, and took care of him. And so there was time, there was expense, there was labor, there was derailment from whatever it was he was doing, and so all those things took place, but he understood that. Number 4, apathy stays safe. Stays safe. That could be a dangerous situation over there. I don't know if I want to get involved in that. I could get in the middle of a fight. I could get in the middle of something that's kind of rugged there, you know? Yeah. But apathy says, I don't want to get in the middle of that. I'm going to stay safe. I don't want to have that conversation. I don't want to ask if I can help because I'd rather just stay safe. Peace is a whole lot more meaningful to me right now than getting in the midst of somebody's problem. Compassion takes risks. You know, when that Samaritan looked at that man and he went over to him and decided to tend to his wounds and decided to help him, he was taking a risk. He didn't know who beat this guy up. He didn't know if he was going to be in the same danger that this guy was in. He didn't know that. But he stepped in and he took risks. And that's what will happen. You say, well, some people might misunderstand me. That's one of the risks. It's one of the risks. Sometimes people will misunderstand you. People might judge you incorrectly because you did something that you felt out of the heart of compassion that you should have done because you were looking at that person's situation. You want to be a part of helping. But somebody else is looking at it and say, you know, you should have done that. But you have to follow the leadership of the Spirit in these things. We all do. And so you'll have risks to take. There certainly will be risks to take. And we have to understand that this is part of it. Number 5, apathy is passive. It's passive. Compassion is active. When I say apathy is passive, I'm saying basically doing nothing is the action. Choosing silence or choosing indifference. This would be the way apathy would take its route here. Let's just be safe. Let's not say anything, you know. Let's stay out of this thing here. That would be apathy, just to stay out of the situation. But compassion is active. It steps in. The Samaritan acted. He bandaged the wounds. He lifted the man. He provided transportation. He paid the expenses. And he helped this man. He doesn't say he was a doctor. Doesn't say that he was able to necessarily solve all the man's situation. But he did what he could. And in many cases, that's what God's going to call upon us to do. As we develop devoted disciples, God's going to call on us to do what we can. Doesn't mean we're going to have. Doesn't mean we're the complete prescription for a person's problems, but you might be one step closer to their solution. You might be somebody that can help them in one way, shape, or another. So we need to realize that sometimes God's going to call on us, and we need to be active in our participation in the situations instead of passive. You know, I remember I told you a story before. Jerry Vargo. Jerry Vargo was a fellow who worked for us down in Santa Ma, which is down there in South Louisiana. And so Jerry was working on a project, and he was working hard. And a maintenance guy always has lots of projects to work on. And so it was raining, and we had a pretty big gully washer, and as the rain was coming, we had a block building, and the rain was coming down the block building, and there was somehow or another, it had a pretty good channel that went all the way from the top of the building all the way down to the windowsill. We had a windowsill that was all framed in with block, and it was just going drip, 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 splash, 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 and we had kids that were sitting right by the window, and every time that thing splashed, it was getting all over their papers and all over everything. They kept on moving it, and the carpet got all wet around there. So I said, okay, I've got to do something about this, okay? Of course, I couldn't do anything myself because of the fact I was in charge of the learning center there, so it wasn't me that was able to do something. So I go out into the gym, and there's Jerry, and Jerry's out there working on something in the middle of the gym. I said, Jerry, come here, I need you to show you something. This is what he said. He said, Bob, I don't want to see it. I said, Jerry. He says, knowledge is responsibility. And I just stood there and looked at him like, yes, and it should be your responsibility. You know, I didn't say that, but what he said was very instructive. Knowledge is responsibility. It's so easy for us to learn that something needs to be fixed or something's broken or something needs to be done. And so we want to run to somebody else to do it instead of us taking the initiative to get the thing done. Knowledge is responsibility. If you know about it, you have responsibility to do something with it. And so, you know, we need to consider that. It's very easy for us to just give the other guy the responsibility and walk on in our apathy. It's better for us to do what we can. Maybe there's something you could do. Maybe there's something you could do. There's lots of things that come up. You know, Pastor, this won't work. Did you ever try taking the paper towel holder and do this to it? You know, I never thought about that. You know, it's just. And listen, I'm glad that I can help in what ways that I can. I really am. But what I'm saying is that all of us need to realize we can do something to help the various situations and circumstances that go on around here. But not just here. It's not just the physical things. It's the people things we're primarily talking about here, that we can do something. So apathy is passive, compassion is active. Okay, here's something else. Apathy keeps people at a distance. This is what apathy does. Okay, they don't necessarily put their hands out, all right? But they have a way of keeping people at a distance. They have a way of just saying enough to not get involved. Don't ask very sensitive questions. Don't ask questions that are going to require long answers, you know? So we keep our conversations superficial, okay? Now, granted, you can't have the deep conversations of life on the ramp all the time, all right? But the truth of the matter is it's so easy for us to just want to get involved with one another on a superficial level. You know, my son Brian has a fellow that's in his church, and he will not, this guy that Brian knows, his name is Tim. Tim will not let Brian get away with cliche answers. Tim will say, you know, Brian, how are you doing? He doesn't want to hear, fine. He doesn't want to hear that because that's a superficial answer. He'll say, no, Brian, really, how are you doing? You see, he will keep asking that question until he gets an answer that's deeper than this defined, like we're so prone to say, you know, when people ask us that question. Again, there's appropriate times to talk about things that are more intimate or more involved, but truth be known, it's so easy for us in the church to just ask real superficial questions and consequently never get to the heart of what people are really aching about, really wrestling with. And so it helps us to realize. So apathy keeps us distance, and we can do this verbally, we can do this physically, we can do this emotionally, we can do this in a lot of different ways. We really can. You know, sometimes I feel bad, you know, because I'll go to something like that, and you all know, okay? I get in a situation, and it's really easy for me to cry. All right? It's really easy for these eyes to start welling up and start looking tearful and stuff like that. You say, you know, do you just fake it? No, I don't. All right? But there's something inside of me that wishes I didn't have to do that, but then there's something inside of me that knows I should. When I go on a call, and I got to tell an 8-year-old girl she's never going to see her daddy again, it's very hard for me to say that without crying. I know it's my job. I know it's what I need to do. I know it's what I'm there for from time to time. But I can't sit there and do it in a stoic, non-caring, nonchalant, I don't really care little girl attitude. So my eyes well up. When I see a wife crying because her husband died and she had no idea it was going to happen that night, I don't really like to go in there and start tearing up. But it's really easy for us to try to emotionally distance ourselves from the situations that take place. It's almost like it's a natural tendency for us to kind of protect ourselves because emotional situations are pretty tough to get involved in sometimes. So apathy keeps us distant, but compassion draws people close. Compassion takes those little girls and puts your arms around them. Say, you know what? Daddy's not coming home again. And they cry. And you kind of hug them and you cry with them. And the situation is just like that. And it's a cost. It's a cost. You don't sit there going home saying, oh, rejoice in the Lord. That was a great experience. You really don't. You hurt with them. You know, but that's what happens when you get involved. I don't think this guy, the Good Samaritan, went over there and said, oh, wow, this is a great opportunity. Boy, this is fun. Let's do it again. I think he looked at this man who was beaten up and was, you know, he probably didn't even know if he was going to make it, perhaps. And it was emotional for him as well as it was trying to get the situation righted. Number 7, apathy protects self. This is what apathy tries to do. We try to protect ourselves. We don't get involved. We want to kind of keep our distance so that we can protect ourselves. We don't want to get emotionally, mentally, physically, financially, relationally involved. So we just kind of do that. Folks, ministry, you don't develop devoted disciples by not getting involved in the lives of people. You don't do that like this. Whether your arms are up or in your mind or in your heart, you have to get involved in the lives of people. And some of you say, I don't like that. I don't feel comfortable. I didn't say you're going to feel comfortable. But it's what you have to do. If you want to be a disciple maker, you've got to get involved in the lives of people. You're not going to make disciples at a distance. Jesus walked with the disciples. They went everywhere he went. He heard their foolish arguments. He heard the things that they were talking about. He had to wring his hands and go, oh my goodness, fellas, didn't you learn anything yet? But he stayed with them. And he continued to teach them, and he continued to bring them along. You see, they helped them. And that's what you have to do. It's going to cost you. People who don't agree with what you're telling them, it's going to cost you. Say, I'm done with that person. I am done with them. They just frustrate me. Yeah. And guess what? Did your kids ever frustrate you? Did you throw them out the door because they frustrated you? Oh, let me put it this way. Did you ever frustrate your parents? Did they chuck you out the door because you did? You know, aren't you glad that you had people in your life who you frustrated but stayed with you? Okay? I don't know what's going on over there, but y'all behave. But it's true. We can. But I'm so thankful for the people that when I did stupid things, they stuck with me. And they helped me through the stupid things. And we need to realize that we're helping people. They're going to say things. They're going to do things. And some they're going to do things that might sound crass. And, oh, no, you shouldn't have said that in the presence of my pristine little ears who've never heard anything before. You deal with the people of this world, your pristine little ears are going to burn a few times. Because people out there talk about stuff that you just don't even want to think about. But if you're going to help them, you got to listen. You're not listening so you can be partaker. You're listening so that you can be a help to them. So apathy protects, compassion restores. That's what compassion is trying to do, restoration. We're trying to bring people to a place of restoration in their lives. Apathy asks, who's my neighbor? So the lawyer, the self-righteous lawyer, going about to try to justify himself. Of course, when Jesus said that, he comes back with this real holier-than-thou attitude. Jesus says, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and thy soul and with all thy strength and with all thy mind, and thy neighbor as thyself. And he said unto him, thou hast answered, he answers this, okay? And then, willing, because of the fact that he realized what he just said, he said, thou hast answered right, this do, and thou shalt live. But he, willing to justify himself, said unto Jesus, and who is my neighbor? In other words, how far do I have to carry this? I mean, can I carry it just to my immediate family? Can I carry it just to the people on either side of me, on the block? How far do I have to carry this? And then Jesus gives us the parable. And obviously the answer to that is as far as you want to be neighbor to anybody. And so this is what we need to do. So apathy says, who's my neighbor? Compassion proves who is a neighbor. Compassion takes responsibility and proves, I'm going to be neighbor to you. That's Jesus' point. It's not you sit there being selective about who you're going to help. Okay, I'll help these people. I like these people here. I'll help these few over here, but nobody else. No. You need to be a neighbor to whoever God sends your way. Number 9, apathy is religion without love. Obviously, the Levites had religion. Obviously, the priests had religion. They were religious people, right? And somebody might look at you as a religious person. You say, oh, they go to church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. They're a religious person. Okay? But religion without love is apathy. I don't care how many times you go to church. It's really not the telltale sign of your compassion. The telltale sign is, who are you willing to get involved with in this life? Are you willing to get your hands dirty? Are you willing to take time out of your schedule? Are you willing to do this? Are we willing? I'm not just pointing my finger at you. Please understand that. Now, this is for all of us. Messages like this are very convicting for me because I realize my own tendencies. All of us need to recognize this. So we're not just taking the shovel and throwing it over here. No, we're saying, this is for me. So apathy is religion without love. Compassion is love in action. Compassion is taking 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 through 8, and literally putting it to work. Working with those principles of biblical love in mind. And by the way, the last thing it says is it never fails. Love never faileth. In other words, boy, I did it today. I did my one deed of compassion today. I'm done. Guess what? God might give you 2. He might even send 3. You say, what do I do? Do I feel overwhelmed? You go to God and you say, Lord, I need your strength. I couldn't do the first one without you, because without you I can do nothing. And I can't do this one without you. So Lord, I'm putting my faith and my trust in you. Give me the strength, give me the wisdom, give me the help, give me the words, give me the compassion that I need to help this person with this need. Ask God. You're not in this alone, folks. We're not in this alone. It's not just up to you being a good Samaritan all on your own. No, it's the Spirit of God in you who empowers you. God works in you to will. That's the desire. And to do. That's the energy. That's the literal strength to do of His good pleasure. So it's not just up to you. And if you just take it upon yourself, well, yeah, you will get worn out really fast. So you need to realize that these things come as opportunities. God sends them your way because He believes you're the one to handle it. There's times when I get a call and I jump in the car. I have nowhere, I don't know who I'm going to. I have an address, that's all I have. I don't know who I'm going to, I don't know what I'm going to face. And as I'm driving down the road, I'm saying, Lord, I don't know why you called me, but you did. I don't know why I'm on this call. I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't even know what the situation is. God, I need you to help me. I need you to give me the wisdom. I need you to help me to help these people in whatever way that I can. And I'm amazed sometimes just how God provides the wisdom, gives you the words to say, enables you to help people in their difficult times. Apathy walks past brokenness. Compassion stops and heals it. People are broken everywhere. Everywhere. Kids, adults, marriages, relationships. You say, well, Pastor, praise the Lord, it's not happening here in a church. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. There's brokenness here, too. Now, you don't know because you probably have gone around talking to people like this emotionally. So you probably don't even know what some people are facing and what they're up against and what their last week has been like. But there's brokenness here, too. There's people that are wrestling with some real needs here, too. Their hearts are heavy in some cases. And apathy walks past the brokenness. And yet compassion stops and does what it can to heal it. So can you think of other people in the Bible, other characters that demonstrate apathy or an apathetic attitude? I will just take a couple of seconds. Can you think of other Bible characters who were pretty obviously apathetic? Yeah? Jonah. Oh, yes, Jonah. Poor Jonah. Jonah was upset from the very beginning of what he was told to do. Talk about distancing himself. I mean, he went to pretty big extremes to distance himself from the problem. I mean, he was going as far west as he possibly could to get out of the entire scenario. What did God do? He just bundled him up and took him right back to where he needed to go to, you know? God says, you're going to face this, buddy. You're going to face this. You're going to do what I want you to do here. And he went kicking and screaming. You say, did he really? Yeah, I think he did. Because look at him after he delivers his message, and all of a sudden 120,000 Ninevites get saved. And what is he doing? He's up on the hill, pouting. He is not in this for the people. He is just upset. What did God say to him? Jonah, doest thou well to be angry? He had told him 2 times in chapter 4, doest thou well to be angry? Well, then God gives him a gourd tree and it comes up and it gives him a little shade, and then Jonah's just rejoicing because he's got a little bit of relief. And then God sends a worm, takes the worm, eats that old gourd tree up, and it flops down, and he's angry again. God is just trying to bring Jonah to his own senses. Jonah, do you see how selfish you are? I got 120,000 people here who can't tell their right hand from their left hand, spiritually speaking. Don't you think that they deserve a right to come to, I made these people too. Who else? Yeah, at the end of his life, Hezekiah was a little bit that way. Now, Hezekiah was such a good king, and when I see that at the end of his life, he made a statement there. He was just glad that prosperity was in his time. And he produced Manasseh. And by the way, he produced Manasseh in those last 15 years that God gave him of life. That's what produced the Manasseh. It was that attitude that produced the most wicked king, Manasseh, that ended up, God had to judge Israel because of it. Who else? Who else can you think of? The first kinsman in Ruth? Yeah, he didn't want to step in and take Ruth. It would mar his inheritance, right? So he didn't want to get involved with that. Thank the Lord, Boaz did. And Boaz decided he was going to help the situation. So these are good illustrations of people, and there's lots of others, okay, that were apathetic, all right? So, well, let me ask you this. What about compassion? Who else can you see in the scriptures who was compassionate? Who? Ruth. She sure was. She stuck with Naomi, didn't she? I mean, what's her name? The other thought. Orpah. I thought Orpah was going to kind of stick with it, but then Orpah decided, no, after a couple of things, okay, I guess I will go. But Ruth stuck with her. She was compassionate. She stuck with Naomi. She was indeed. Whither thou goest, I will go. Thy people shall be my people. Thy God shall be my God. And so Ruth did. She had compassion enough to stay with Naomi. Naomi, who was once, what's her name to start with? It was Mara was that's what she called herself afterwards, which was basically bitter. But Naomi meant, was it beautiful? Anyway, but nonetheless, yes, Ruth. Who else? Who else is a good example? Yes. Joseph. Oh, yeah. Joseph was a great example. He's a great example. What his brothers did to him, could have been real easy for him to get vindictive and, when Dad died, basically to put the bite on them, but he didn't. He took care of them for the rest of their lives. And so, yes, indeed, Joseph was compassionate to his brothers. All right. Who else? Yes? Jesus every day. Yeah, Jesus. When you look at the life of Jesus, think about some of the different things that took place in his life. The woman at the well, okay, compassion. The woman taken in adultery, compassion, okay. The people that came up to him who had leprosy, people say, don't touch him, don't touch him. Jesus put his hands on them and he healed them. I mean, you look at the life of Christ and you see somebody who entered into the needs that nobody else wanted to enter into. Jesus went to the problem and he was full of compassion. So I think we can go to a lot of different situations in the life of Jesus Christ. Who else in the New Testament can you see that, yes? Paul, how? Good answer.
He went so many different places to share the gospel.
He did, for sure. He's sure. When the jailhouse broke open, okay? You got a good answer, buddy. All right, when the jailhouse broke open, Paul and Silas could have taken off and got out of that place as quickly as possible. What did he do? He stuck around so he can give that family the gospel and they got saved. You see, apathy was said, you guys, you can handle your own situation. When they come to get you, you're all toast, but I'm getting out of here. No, not Paul. He stayed right there, and he made sure that they received the gospel, and that family got saved, and he did that because he had compassion on that Philippian jailer. Good Paul. Excellent example. Who else? Who? Who? Barnabas. Barnabas was one of those guys, I just like Barnabas. Barnabas, he saw somebody down, he went to help them. If it wasn't for Barnabas, where would Paul be? If it wasn't for Barnabas, where would John Mark be? Barnabas was definitely a sheepdog fellow, wasn't he? He went out there to help people who were in need. So yeah, good illustrations of people. So let's just take another step here, okay? Let's just say, all right, what does apathy look like at home? I'm talking about where you live. What does apathy look like at home? Now, I'm not going to ask you to tell me, because the people that are living there in the pew right next to you might not appreciate your observations, okay? So I'll say a few observations without anybody here necessarily in mind, okay? Apathy, what does it look like in a Christian home, in a home just like your home? It could look like something. It could be emotional distance. It could be conversations that are short, surface level, or non-existent. It could be that when you come home, you're home to sit on the couch and turn on the TV and go to sleep and drink a Dr. Pepper, and that's your night. I don't know what the laughing is about. Maybe that's what everybody's doing. I'm not sure. Like I said, I don't know anybody. I'm not picking on anybody here. Family members feel unheard or unnoticed. Okay? Dad's home, but he's not home. And the kids are unheard. They're unnoticed. Hey, Daddy, I want to tell you about it. Not now, son. I'm really busy. Had a rough day today. You keep that up and they're not coming back to you. They're going to go to somebody who will listen to them, and somebody will listen to them. And somebody will give them advice, and it might not be the advice that you wish they had. Do you know that the American home today, over 40% of the homes in the US of A have no father in the home? No father. And do you know how many homes have a father that's there but is absentee or not present because when he shows up, he's not there? Because he's too busy with his own stuff that he doesn't have time for what the kids need to talk about, what the kids want to talk about, what the wife wants to talk about. And consequently, he might be physically present, but he's emotionally distant. There's little curiosity about each other's day, struggles, feelings. We don't ask questions like, hey, how did your day go? So I don't ask that because she might tell me. Well, that's the whole idea. The whole idea is she needs to tell you, and you need to tell her, and you need to share these things. I mean, that's what intimacy is all about, right? It's about you telling about what happened in your day. So there's emotional distance. This is what we're talking about, apathy in the home. There's a lack of initiative. 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 That's the way. Right? Nice song to sing, isn't it? All right? Initiative. Tasks pile up because no one feels motivated to do them. Everybody thinks it's the other guy's job. Who's going to clean your room? Who's going to take your dirty laundry out of the bathroom and put it where it belongs so it can get washed? Who's going to fold it? Fold it. We don't fold laundry. Folks, there's so many things that we can just lack initiative. People wait for someone else to handle problems, to handle chores, to handle responsibilities. One of the best things you can do for your children is to teach them to have responsibility. You say, oh, that's a good child. No, it's not. Who told you that? You had to go to college to get that kind of stuff. Children need to learn to have responsibilities. And when your children are little, oh, they're just too little. No, they're not too little. You'd be surprised what a 4-year-old can do. He can take the garbage out. He can put the new bag in the garbage can where the old bag just came out. He can roll the garbage can out to the front where the garbage people, he can take it back and put it back in its place after the garbage man came and dumped it. A little guy can do stuff like that. Mom said, I'm so busy, I got so much going on. Let your teenage daughter cook breakfast. Last time we did that, we had a house afire. I understand that's going to happen from time to time, but if you teach her how to cook, she won't do that. I just don't have time. It's easy if I just do it myself. What's going to happen when she gets married? Who's going to teach her then? Her husband's going to have burnt sacrifices for the first year or two, right? Teach them to do the laundry. Oh, Pastor, I won't do that. Last time I did that, we had pink underwear. Well, look. Look. All right? Better to do it now when you're in the home than they get out there in college and have pink underwear. That really has a big toll when that happens in the college situation. And there's some people that don't have any idea how to do their laundry because everything was done for them. They didn't have to take initiative. Everything was done for them, or it was neglected, nothing got done at all. If you've got 3, 4 kids in the house, your house should be spotless. Older kids, let me say, okay? I realize this is not, toddlers don't do this, okay? Toddlers are pretty good about going behind you and just basically undoing everything that you did, all right? But when they get to be 7, 8, 9, 10, they should be carrying their weight around the home. Initiative, lack of initiative. You know, I think in many respects, we're teaching our kids to be poor partners in life when we do everything for them. There's stuff that they can do. They can clean their room. And I'm not talking about open the closet, throw everything in, and shut the closet door. That is not cleaning their room. They need to realize what a clean room is. They can make their bed. Mother, if you're still making their bed at 10 years old, you have got a problem. I'm telling you. They need to make their bed as soon as they get up. Well, so hard, it's just so hard. It takes them so long. They'll get faster. They just will. We have to let kids have responsibilities. Even small acts of kindness, checking in, offering help, feeling, I like to allow kids to do this. Number 3, indifference to conflict. Problems are ignored instead of addressed. Tension builds because no one wants to deal with the issues. Silence becomes the way to avoid discomfort. It's so easy for the Cold War to take place in homes where we have definite problems here, okay? Miscommunication, no communication, things are going wrong. So what do? We say nothing. It doesn't fix the problem. It just makes it worse. Silence doesn't fix the problem. But if I say something, it's going to be a big argument. Yep, there's a cost for discipleship. You even have to disciple in your home. You've got to bring these situations you got to bring them out. You've got to say something about them. Because if you don't, you're like the Levite or the priest that passes by on the other side and don't look, and you're distancing yourself from the problem, and you're thinking it's just going to go away. It's not going to go away. It's going to continue to get worse. You think that do you think that if the Samaritan did what the priest and the Levite did, do you think that guy would have lived? The likelihood is he would have died. And you think about some of the situations in your home. If you don't address them, do you think that they're going to get better? No, the likelihood is they're going to get worse and worse. They're going to become crises. Reduced presence, another problem. A problem that apathy creates. Reduced presence. Time together becomes rare and distracted. People retreat to iPhones, televisions, hobbies, instead of interacting. We don't talk to each other. Everybody's got their phone. I mean, to me, I had this little picture in my mind. My wife and I were out, and we went to Home Depot. And so when we pulled up in the car, this is a young couple. I would think they're probably in their 30s, maybe late 20s. They get out of the car. She gets out of the passenger seat. He gets out of the driver's seat. They get out of the car. They come to the front of the car. He's got his cell phone in his left hand. They hold hands. She's got her cell phone in her right hand. And in they go to Home Depot. I thought, wow, they must be on a date. I don't know who they're talking with, but they must be on a date, right? Listen, folks, put the phones down. Can I tell you something? You don't have to answer the phone every time it rings. Some of you old folks remember when we didn't have phones like that. They had cords. They were attached to walls, and people had answering machines so that when you got the chance that you listened to your answering machine and then you returned your calls. It's not like we could be in the middle of a family crisis and the phone rings. Oh, wait. You know, oh, yeah, how's it going, Joe? Yeah, good. Yeah, everything's going great. Yeah. You liar, it's not going great. You're having a terrible time. And don't you know your kids or your wife listen to the whole thing and they're going, oh, yeah, it's really going great, Joe. No, it's not going great. We're having a horrible time right here. But we have this persona that we're trying to put out there. Apathy tries to keep the show up. Compassion says we need to do something about this. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad we have phones. But I'll tell you what, I don't think it's done a lot for our families. I really don't. And by the way, that's just not my opinion. The secular world has come to that same opinion. It is stifling our kids' mental capacity. It's introducing to our kids' lives a world out there that you parents don't realize what they're getting into. But they're getting into it. And you know why you don't know? Because you're distanced from them. You're letting the phone or the iPad or the whatever it is be the babysitter. And you're not involved with them because of apathy. You're not taking the initiative. Going through the motions, actions are done out of routine, but not out of love or intention. Family feels like mechanical rather than connected or meaningful. We just go through the motions. Go to school, go to work, go to church, go to school, go to work, go to church, go out to eat, go to school, go to work, go to church. And it's just mechanical. You might as well be a robot. Because there's no interaction. It's just you do the stuff. And lo and behold, another week has passed by and that's all you did, stuff. You don't know one thing more about your wife or your husband or your children, about what they're going through. You don't know anything because you just went through the motions. That's what apathy people do. Family life feels mechanical rather than connected. Birthdays, milestones, or achievements feel uncelebrated. Kids come home all excited because they got an award or they did something that was meaningful to them, and you're too busy to make anything of it. Oh, yeah, that's good, that's great. Well, wonderful. No, just take the paper and just put it in there. I'll look at it a little bit later. And then if you could just look at the face, it's almost like if you put this little face on video, you just see the face deflate. Like, I wanted to share this with the most important person in my life, and they just want to take it and stick it on a shelf. You see what I'm saying? Withholding care, needs are minimized or ignored. Someone else will handle it. Lack of effort or support, comfort, or encouraging to one another. Practical help is replaced by excuses. Closed heart, compassion, fatigue sets in. I don't have the energy to care anymore. It does take energy. It does take energy. And so, consequently, living with apathy feels, how's it feel? Lonely, even when others are present. It feels unimportant or invisible. Makes people feel that they're unimportant or they're just invisible. They're there, but they're not there. You don't see them. Apathy makes you feel like everyone is a roommate instead of a family. We're all just roommates here. We all come in, we do our separate stuff. We don't even sit down and eat together. We just grab this and we go off and we take off and we're out and about. We don't sit down and eat meals together. We're just always on the run. Because, we got to make money, So we can do what? Buy more stuff to distract us? It makes us feel emotionally drained, but unsure why. What does compassion look like at home? Well, it looks like this. It means listening with real attention. So when your little kid or your grandkid or somebody comes up to you and they're talking to you, if you're sitting there with a paper in your hand or an iPhone in your hand or you're sitting there with put it down. And get that little child and look at them right in the eye and say, now tell me about your story. They want your attention. You remember when the kids were little? Remember, Mom, when they were little? Remember what they did? They would take their little hands and they would put it on either side of your face when you were looking the other way, and they'd squeeze your cheeks together like that, and then they would make you look right into their eyes. Because, see, a little child knows when they have your attention or not. And they know when you're up doing something else, you're just busy with something else. Mom, and you say, it bothers me. Mom, well, if you just get down there and listen to what they have to say, you might be able to take care of the situation. But because we're so spent, so busy doing our stuff, now I understand there are times that you have to attend to things. I get that. But you have to realize these kids need your attention. If they don't get your attention by 10, they're going to start getting somebody else's attention. And the other person whose attention they're going to get is not going to tell them what you want to hear. They're going to make other friends who will listen because other friends have the same problem with their parents. And so they get together and they don't know what they're talking about or what anything is all about. And they get together and share nonsense, and that's what they end up getting into. Do you think a 10-year-old is going to help a 10-year-old? Do you think an 11-year-old is going to help an 11-year-old? Do you think a 13-year-old is going to have wise advice for another 13-year-old? No. But if we won't listen, they're going to get their questions answered, and it's not going to be the answers you like. So compassion has to listen. It's got to take time. It's got to listen. Listen with real attention. Make eye contact. Show real interest. Ask, how can I support you right now? Number 2, compassion. What does it look like? It's offering help before being asked. Sometimes you can just see the need and just do it. You know, it doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot. We have water that we have in the garage. So we have a case of 40 bottles of water. Then we have a shelf inside, cold out in the garage, especially in the winter. And we have a shelf on the inside, where you can get the water and just, use it for whatever you need to. Now, when I go in there to get a bottle of water, guess what I see? How many bottles of water there are on the wall? How many bottles of water? Okay. There's only one more bottle that's happened to the wall. I see that. You say, what do you do? Well, it's really easy for me to just say, all right, I'll take this bottle of water. I got my water. You know what she really appreciates? When I see that there's 2 or 3 bottles of water on that shelf, and I go out there and she doesn't even say anything to me, and I go out there and I get that case of water and I fill that shelf with all those bottles of water, she is so appreciative that I do that simple thing. You know how long it took? Maybe a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes. When you walk into the dining room and the light's out, now I know you just got home, but she's been home all day. And you know what she's done all day? That light's out. That light is still out. The light's still out. I wonder if you're going to do something about that. And by the time you get home at 5 o'clock, listen, we have got a case, all right? I mean, we're talking about this is really bothering us because that light is still out, you know what I mean? And so, you know the best thing for you to do, guys? If you see the light out, change it. Well, so then I have to go into the garage and get a light bulb. Yes, there's a cost. There is a cost. But it will mean the world to her if she doesn't have to tell you every time a light bulb's out. It's a good way to get points quick. But neglect the things around the house that need to be done. Okay? Okay, when she orders a new such and such that needs your help to get it put together, when it comes through Prime, when it comes through the little truck drives up, okay? You know what that is? Knowledge is responsibility. When it comes, guess what she wants to do with that box? Does she want to take it and sit it on the kitchen counter and look at it for the next 4 days? No. As soon as that box comes in, buddy, it's ripped open. The cardboard's in the dumpster, and the item is sitting right smack in the kitchen counter right there. And you know what it's saying? Fix me, fix me, fix me, fix me, fix me. You say, does it really say that? Yeah, it really says that. And if I don't listen to that little thing saying, fix me, In about 2 or 3 days, maybe not that long, I will hear something else. When are you going to get that? No, she doesn't really do it that way. She really doesn't do it that way. She doesn't. She might be tempted to do that, but she doesn't really do that. But it doesn't mean she couldn't feel like doing that. You see what I'm saying? And we do this in such little ways. We do it around the house, and it's a different apathy. It's literally caring for the situation, or not caring for the situation, being distanced from, walking by it, not seeing, not looking at it, or actually having compassion. And you say, that doesn't sound like compassion. Yes, when you step in and you meet a need for that person in your house, be it your child, or be it your wife, or your husband, I'm telling you, you're meeting a need. And it does them good physically, and it does them good emotionally, because it says, he cares for me, she cares for me. That's what it says. And listen, folks, life is made up of those kind of things. It's made up of so many little things like this that just add up. And if we don't attend to these things, they can add up in a bad way. But if you do attend to them, they can add up in a very good way. Showing patience, even when it's hard. Giving grace when someone's having a rough day. Being emotionally present. Celebrating with each other's joys. Doing the small acts of kindness. Choosing to understand over judgment. Supporting each other in hard times. Taking responsibility, not keeping score. These are all things that we can do so that compassion shows up in our homes. And so I just challenge all of us here, okay? All of us have a tendency to be like the priest and the Levite. We all have a tendency to look the other way and to distance ourselves from whatever it is that's going on, problems in people's lives. If we're going to be effective disciple makers, we have to have compassion. We have to step into the situations. We have to take initiative to get involved. And the best place for that to start, training ground, is in your home. If you develop these kind of habits in your home, you'll find out you will start to get a little bit better out of it outside of your home. The home is a training ground. It's the character training ground. It's the discipleship training ground. The best discipleship development place is your home, right where you live, every single day, 24/7. Roscoe, pray for us, would you please?
Lord, we're grateful for what we've heard today. All the things that we can come and be fed, Lord, we can be challenged in our lives, and Lord, that we do have hope because we have your word and your truth to apply. And we do ask that you would help us now to continue to be molded as good disciples. And Lord, as that can begin at home and at work and then reach out into the world. And again, we just want to thank you and praise you for your love and your mercy and your patience with us as we grow in grace. And then help us to apply that grace to every situation that you put us in. And help us to have eyes to see your word and ears to hear your voice. Or as we go through our daily lives. And look forward to the week that you've put before us. And again, help us to use it wisely as we acknowledge that it's from you and to you, and that you would get the glory for all that's done in our lives. And again, we thank you again for the gift of the day and for all the food you put before us today. And again, we thank you for these things as we ask them in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.